when I look at my life, Michael, and I think of the power entrusted to my care, I ask the question, where have I loved? And where have I used people to get what I need in the way of validation? Where have I used people or things or power or prestige or money to buy, to arrange for things like comfort and worth and meaning and importance and belonging that was meant to originate from God? And so the entire process of maturation is to become the kind of men and women that can rule and reign in partnership with God, that can bring on earth literally the recreation of all things. And we become the kind of people that ultimately in our kingdoms, we find ourselves blessing those who curse us and loving our enemies as a reaction without even thinking about it. And it's just one example of the full process of maturation. And I have a long way to go, but I'm not who I used to be. And that's what's really hopeful.
Hmm. Amen. I'm right there with you. Yeah, I feel the same. A long way to go, but I'm, thank God I'm not who I used to be.
But
So
Michael, let me
much
ask
growth.
you on that same question, can you think of a context or a moment in some disclosure where power was entrusted to you? And I will just be forthright. You were really proud of how you handled it. You can look back and say, I had a decision and I chose the with God life. I chose perhaps to sort of crucify my flesh and live out of resurrection, or I chose to offer out of my deepest maturity rather than my brokenness. And it might be really small, and it might be literally under your roof, and it might be, the kingdom of living truth. Like, can you think of a
Hmm.
super
Hmm.
practical example?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, well, you mean something that I'd be willing to tell 1,000 people on a podcast?
I'll tell
Yeah.
you what, might as well. Life is short. The kingdom's coming sooner than we
Right?
think, right?
Yes.
Want to waste our time.
One thing that comes to mind right away was, and yeah, my wife often listens to these podcast interviews, so she'll probably get a kick out of this one. But um, the so she had we went through a period of time where she was whatever was going on around dinner time, and she would ask me, hey, she'd send me a text or whatever, turn the oven on and put the chicken in the oven, and I'm
Yes.
working from home. I worked from home long before COVID and stuff, and had an office maybe 10% of the time. And so the and time after time, I would screw it up, and just she would come home and frustrated and like, yeah, I didn't do it right. And so the one time she said, she sent me a text, turn the oven on to 400 degrees and put the chicken in the oven, after it preheats or whatever it is. And I set the alarm. I'm like, alarm goes off at 4 o'clock. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm doing something positive that my wife needs me to do. So I go and I turn the oven on to 400 degrees, and then I go back to work. She comes, I go back to my office and, in the house, and then she comes home. You forgot to put the chicken in the oven.
Oh,
So I so the old version of me would have been defensive and
yes.
reactive, and like, this is not my responsibility, this is yours anyway, whatever, whatever
Yes.
it might have been. And I'm not saying that I always get it right even now, so maybe after enough time she doesn't ask me to preheat the oven anymore. I don't know, but the so the point is that time I was able to move toward her with some, and not be defensive, but apologize. I'm so sorry, yeah, I messed this up again. Let me make it up to you. We'll
Mm.
we'll put the chicken in and eat it tomorrow, and tonight let's go out for pizza or whatever I said, and I moved toward her. So something small, not a huge deal,
Sure.
but yeah, um, doing the right thing in the right moment and owning my mistake,
Yeah.
that's one example I could think of